Several years ago, you could have made a very strong argument that George Springer was one of the best outfielders in MLB. His career in Houston was filled with numerous accolades, and it felt like every season that passed by, he just kept getting better and better. But the good times have not kept rolling with George Springer. The former World Series MVP is still getting paid like a superstar, but has not been delivering when he's on the field, prompting Blue Jays fans to wonder if it's time to move on. What happened to George Springer, and is there any hope that he can go back to being that special player that we all remember? What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel. In this one, we're going to be talking about George Springer and what the Toronto Blue Jays should end up doing with him moving forward. Before we get into it, I encourage you guys to hit the like and smash the subscribe button if you enjoy Blue Jays content and discussion so you don't miss any future videos. Alright, folks, let's get into it. So, it goes without saying, but George Springer did not have a good year of baseball in 2024. This past season, George Springer hit for a batting average of .220, had an on-base percentage of .303, a slugging of .371, and an OPS of .674. Those numbers are rough, but they're especially bad when you're talking about George Springer. In fact, every single one of those statistics are career lows for Springer, meaning that this was by far the worst season of his career to date. The sabermetrics for Springer also tell the story of his season pretty accurately. Looking over at his Baseball Savant page, we can see that the majority of his statistics are in the bottom 50% of the league, and he was particularly bad when it came to his average exit velocity and hitting the sweet spot of the baseball, all numbers that point to why his slugging was significantly down from years past. Ultimately, there were a lot of things that could have gone better for George Springer. But why has this regression been so dramatic? Is it simply because he's getting older, or is there something else at play here which is causing him to fall off? Well, to be honest, I don't think that there's one problem with Springer, but it's really a mixture of everything. If you had to chalk it up to something, then one noticeable difference between this year and years past for George is his ground ball rate and his launch angle. In 2024, George's ground ball rate increased by over 5%, and he was hitting a ground ball just shy of 50% of the time. His launch angle also decreased significantly, which makes sense considering most of the time he was hitting the ball on the ground. Now, the reason for all these ground balls can truly be a bunch of different things. His swing plane might be a little off, he could be late to the baseball, he might not be transferring his weight properly from his front foot to his back foot, or he might just be getting old. Either way, the Toronto Blue Jays still have him under contract for 2 more seasons at just under $25 million a year, and they are going to need to figure out what the heck to do with him. The first thing that I think needs to be done, and I'm not alone in thinking this, is that George Springer can no longer be batting leadoff. Jays Journal writes, with obvious signs of regression occurring for the 35-year-old veteran, it should be about time the Jays move on from Springer in the position and try out a more traditional leadoff hitter that could be more effective at getting on base and generating runs. And I genuinely couldn't agree more with them. At the end of the day, a leadoff hitter just simply needs to have a higher OPS than .674. The other alternative that the Toronto Blue Jays might try to explore is to trade George Springer, but honestly, who's gonna take him?
Time for a quick shout out to Betway, the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite sports teams. Betway's in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years of age or older to participate. Scan this QR code down below to create your free account today. Also, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
If I'm capable of finding all of these statistics explaining Springer's regression, then other MLB teams will certainly be able to as well, and probably aren't going to feel super strongly about trading for a 35-year-old who's getting paid as much as George is. Now, the Jays could try to pay for some of his contract and sweeten the deal for whichever team does try to trade for him, but they'd probably have to end up paying for so much of it that it just wouldn't make sense to move on from him at that point. In conclusion, folks, the George Springer problem doesn't look like it's going to be going away anytime soon. And honestly, as Blue Jays fans, we kind of just need to cross our fingers and hope that some of those important numbers go back to where they used to be. But folks, let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, go Jays go!